Hi, it's Morgan and welcome to the Dove's Nest. In today's video, I'm doing the preschool tag. Now this video was started as a collaboration video by Lindsay from Mama Shmoo's Homeschool Reviews and a bunch of other YouTube moms. I will be sure to link the playlist for those videos below. Nobody tagged me, I think because nobody knows who I am, but I thought it would be really fun, and so I figured I would jump in and talk a little bit more about the way that we do things in our homeschool. Now, it's no secret that we read a ton of books in our homeschool. We read probably 5 books every single day, and most of those books we read multiple times, whether that day or subsequent days. But I pulled these books. These are the ones that I pulled from my son's nightstand because these are the go-to bedtime books. We read them every night before bed and usually multiple times every night. So the very first one, both of my kids love, and it's Llama Llama Red Pajama. We just love it. It's a sweet story. I don't know what it is about this book, but they love it. This is their favorite page here. The illustrations are just beautiful. But my daughter will carry this book around. She'll thumb through it throughout the day and just look at the pictures. So if we ever have kind of a quiet minute with not much else to do, we will usually pick up this book and read it. And also, like I said, at bedtime. Next we have Oh, the Places You'll Go. This is by far a family favorite. My husband reads this to the kids every night before bed, whether or not they have other bedtime stories. We always include this one. My son has most of it memorized, and the parts that he doesn't have memorized, he knows. So if I'm really tired at night and kind of just want to go to bed and, try to sneakily skip a few pages or, condense the wording or something, he will correct me. No, Mom, it's this. This is how you say it. And so he loves this book. Next is Goodnight, Goodnight Construction Site. We love this story. We love the rhymes. We love the trucks and how they all work together, and we love telling them all goodnight. And even my 1-year-old, sort of after we talk about each machine in the book, it's goodnight, tractor, goodnight, or goodnight, excavator, goodnight. But she's always sure to night, we tell the trucks goodnight. So we love this one. My son's got all but maybe 2 pages memorized. That's how often we read this book. Next we have the sequel, which is Mighty Mighty Construction Site. And now I talked about this book briefly in a book haul that I did. I will be sure to link it up here. But this one is so sweet. In Goodnight, Goodnight Construction Site, it talks about how the trucks work to do their job and complete their project on the construction site. And in this one, the project is so big that they need friends. And so it talks about how each truck works with a friend truck to get the job done, and it really just promotes teamwork, and it's so super cute. Next, my daughter's not a preschooler, but she does everything that we do anyway, and so I figured I'd talk about her 2 favorite books. Right now, she's currently loving Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and it's just a touchy-feely book set to the words of the song, and we love it, and we love to do, the finger plays, and she just loves that. And then lastly is the first 100 words, and I'm going to talk about this book more later in this video. So question number 2 is, how do you teach them ABCs, colors, shapes, and numbers? TV shows, hands-on, tablets, or books? And I think I'm going to spend the majority of the video on this question. So I want to go back and tell you a quick story. Before my husband and I were married, we had a friend who had an 18-month-old daughter. And I forget what we were doing one day, but he asked her to spell monster, and she spelled monster. And we were obviously and immediately intrigued. So we asked what he was using, and he told us about an app called Endless ABC. And so that night, my husband and I both went home and downloaded the app on our phone. There was a free version, so we put it on there and checked it out. And we were like, okay, it's cool, but okay, we'll just kind of file it on the back burner. So fast forward to when my son was 1 year old, we had an old iPad that we put some educational things on, and we gave it to him, and one of the apps that we put on there was this free version of Endless ABC. And he didn't really do much with it until he was about 18 months old, and then he got the concept of dragging and dropping. And so the premise behind this app is that the words are outlined, right? So you have this whole library of words, and they're these little monster friends kind of standing around looking at the words, and it's just the shadow of the word. And the letters are sort of scattered all over the screen, and your job is to drag and drop the letter where it goes. Now, while you're dragging and dropping each letter, the letter becomes alive. They're animated, these little monsters, and they make the letter sound the whole time that you're dragging. So for example, when you push the letter A, she sings right, to the letter sound, and then you drag it and drop, and if you get it in the right spot, it will hooray, you know, this little hooray, da-da, you know, the little sound effects. And if you get it wrong, it buzzes you, right, and it doesn't fit into the letter. So while this app is based on visual discrimination, which is a very important concept for young toddlers to learn, it teaches letters and sounds. So at the very end of the word, once they've dragged and dropped all of the letters, all of the little monsters come out and they do a celebration, and then there is a narrator who reads the word and then reads a definition of the word. And it's a very simple definition in, you know, easy language for toddlers to understand. But as she's reading the definition, the little monsters all get together and act out the word so that they can hear the definition and they see the word and what it means comes to life. It's the most amazing app. And so by the time my son was 18 to 20 months, he knew all of his letter sounds because of that game and another product, which I will be talking about in just a minute. And then he really has kind of started pre-reading since he was 2 years old. And I highly attribute it to that app and this other product I will be talking about. So when like I said, when we got the app, there was a free version to download. We made it maybe 2 months on the free version and then purchased the full version for $3.99. I think that price has since gone up and it's now $8.99. But we have also purchased the entire Endless School bundle. And so that comes with Endless ABC, Endless Numbers, Endless Reader, and Endless Wordplay. And those are all just, you know, the number is very similar to the alphabet where you're dragging and dropping numbers, but then it also does simple math facts or and counting. So you learn how to count things in number order on a number line. There's some simple math facts. For example, if your number is 5, it might give you like 2 plus 3, and you have to drag and drop them. And it's a little bit more complicated because rather than the pieces just staying stationary, they fly. So like your number 3 will be over here and you have to catch it and drag it and drop it, but it makes it really fun. And then Endless Reader and Endless Wordplay are similar again, but they focus on whole words and sentences as opposed to just letter sounds and individual numbers. So that bundle is quite expensive. I think if you were to purchase the whole bundle, it's roughly $60, which for an app to me is exorbitant. We probably wouldn't pay it if that's what we were paying now, but almost 4 years ago when it was $3.99 each, it was totally worth it. But I would definitely recommend getting the free versions, and then depending on how you like those, upgrade as your child requires it, right? Once they learn a skill and they could use some more, then upgrade, but you don't need it all at once. So we love the Endless School bundle. Secondly, for letters, and I don't have it here, but I have every other Leapfrog DVD, it's up in my car, is the Leapfrog Letter Factory DVD. I learned about this from Erica at Confessions of a Homeschooler, and we had this DVD playing all day, every day in my car. As I mentioned in my recent Q&A video, which I will be sure to link up here, when I was having to drive my kids to their babysitter before work every day, we have a TV in our car, or a DVD player in my car, and so I would just have that playing on repeat. So we could watch it probably 1.5 times on the way to the babysitter and 1.5 times on the way home, and it was just on all of the time. And so he really, probably by the time he was 2, again, between that and the Endless ABC app, he learned all of his, to recognize the letters, but all of the letter sounds as well. He just knew them. So we love Letter Factory, as well as all of the other Leapfrog DVDs. To go right along with the Leapfrog Letter Factory DVD, my son was obsessed with school buses when he was very young, and so we got this little thing for Christmas, and it's the Leapfrog ABC, and so you can pick a number, and when you put it in here, it will So when you pop the number in here, it tells you the letter. So E and E. So it basically just sings the letter factory song for all of the letters. And so we loved that, you guys. I got so sick of hearing that song that I actually took the batteries out. For a time because I just couldn't stand it anymore. But that went right along. So that's really how we learned letters. Now, as far as numbers go, I was actually quite worried when my son turned 2 because he didn't really know numbers. It wasn't something I had focused on with him at all or really ever paid attention to. And that just sort of came through everyday learning and the natural progression of learning in toddlers, right? Your toddler is eventually going to pick up how to count to 3 or how to count to 5. You can foster that learning by, how many of this do you see? How many of that do you see? And so that's sort of what we started doing. I mean, nothing super fancy, but we would just incorporate it every day. How many cookies does mom have? How many eyes do you have? How many fingers do you have? How many toes? And until my son was probably almost 3, he could count to 10, right? But what he would do was if there were only 3 objects, he would keep counting them until he got to 10. So he kind of was getting it, but not really. But he's got numbers now, again, just sort of natural progression, everyday discussion, everyday learning about things. But I don't want him to just focus on the number and counting. We are, as I've mentioned multiple times, we are really enforcing number sense in our homeschool. And so we are, yes, using a curriculum for that, but also just everyday activities. We don't use like number cards. We use our subitizing cards that have multiple different ways of representing numbers. Dice, dominoes, popsicle sticks, our fingers, the number card, number word cards, all sorts of things to represent numbers. And that's what we're doing to sort of focus on learning numbers. He can right now count to 10 accurately. He can count to 20 inaccurately, but as far as quantities go, he's pretty good 1 through 10, but we are spending this whole top school year reinforcing that. The other thing I would suggest for numbers is to just have a really fun manipulative. So one of the manipulatives that we got for numbers were this muffin math set. I think it's from, Learning Resources or something, but it comes with these fun little tongs. And then it comes with all of these little muffins. Now these muffins are obviously different colors, and the reason why is because you have multiple die. You've got a number dice and a colors dice. And then in the bottom of the muffin tin, you can place some of these little chips. And it's sort of just like a sorting game. But there's so many different ways to do it. They are double-sided, so like the number 8 or 10 green. And if you want to use the tongs, this is really great for helping with fine motor skills. But we just sort of whip this out and play it every so often. And it just really kind of helped reinforce those number concepts. And it was just a fun activity. Also, it's kind of a sensory activity because they really like reaching in and feeling all of these little muffins. So we have really enjoyed having that game. Now, as far as colors, colors was one of the very first things that I think we really started to teach my children. Both of them actually. And one of the first things that I actually purposefully purchased was this Usborne. It's the Touchy Feely Colors Playbook. And this is just a lift the flap, touch and feel. There's some sensory here. And it's on every page. And we would just go through and talk about the different colors. You could see the doors torn. It's been very well loved. But we love this book. We love this book for teaching colors. Another thing that I did when my son was very young, maybe 6 months old or something, as soon as he was kind of old enough to start holding things, I made these color jars. And these are just water bottles with glitter in them. Now, these weren't the first. These are kind of the 2.0 revamped version, and we have all the colors. I can't find our red, pink, and purple ones. But I just went to the Dollar Tree and I got 2 packs of every color of glitter and a pack of the sequins. And then I put water in these jars and then hot glued the lid shut. If you put a couple drops of glycerin, like from a cake decorating section, it goes a lot slower. But as I said, these are version 2.0. The first version I bought were actually Arrowhead water bottles, and they were maybe this big. So by the time he was 6 months old, he was able to hold it with both hands and shake it. It was very soothing when he was fussy. We kept one in the diaper bag. But we would just sort of talk about the different colors, and they love staring at them. And so now if we have a timeout situation, I'll give them one of the color jars and they have to hold it till all the glitter falls, and that's how long they're in timeout. But as for my toddler, or my baby, my 1.5-year-old, you know, I mean, it's mesmerizing to just sort of look at these. Now, when you purchase the Dollar Tree glitters, there's a couple different shades of each color. So like I said, I purchased 2, but like this blue has 2 or 3 different little packets of that blue glitter. 2 or 3 different colors of the blue glitter, and then 2 of each, so like 6 packs of glitter. And then there's 2 different, actually I think there's 3 different packets of the sequins in here. Yeah, there's like a turquoise, a dark blue, and a light blue. So mix and match your colors. It makes them really pretty, just beautiful ways of learning colors. Another way we would learn colors is if we didn't have the Leapfrog Glitter Factory DVD on in the car on the way to and from the babysitters. About the time I would go to work every morning, that was sort of when the kids were going to school. And so we would see the yellow school buses. And as I mentioned, my son was obsessed with school buses, so we were always sure to point out, yellow school bus. What color is that school bus? It's yellow. We lived in such a great area at that time, and going to and from the babysitter's house was all side streets. And so we saw everything. We saw yellow school buses. We saw red city buses, green garbage trucks. We saw the yellow tractors and diggers and orange dump trucks. There were blue police cars. I mean, just sort of all of the, you know, boy-loving vehicles that you can imagine we saw, and we saw multiple times on that trip. And it was every single day, you know, 5 days a week. And so we really learned colors that way, just by learning to identify the vehicles. And then one day, kind of in the parking lot, we were in the parking lot of a grocery store, and my son just pointed to a car and said red, and I was like, oh, it's clicking. And then from then it really just picked up, and we would just do cars. Anytime we were in the car, that's really how we learned colors, was by looking at the colors of different cars. Other things that we really love, as I said, my son, he until recently has not been super into coloring or have any interest in writing, but he's always loved watercolors. And so we do little Crayola watercolors, and so we'll talk about the colors. Another thing that we have and that we love are stamps. My kids really love little stamps here. And then also these little bingo daubers from the Dollar Tree. They love those. He won't color, but he will do a bingo dauber. So those are some other fun ways to do colors. While my son is doing those things, my daughter enjoys doing a lot of those things too. But one of the things that she loves most, and that really help us talk about colors and color mixing, are little finger paints. And so she loves like the whole sensory experience of finger paints, and she is really into coloring. So right now she's about 19 months old, and she loves markers and watercolors. Those are her favorite. But when she was younger, about 1 year old, we got these giant egg crayons. And these are really good for babies because they have those big chub hands, you know, and they can't really close their hands tight over pencils or anything. So we just have these egg crayons, and she loved coloring with those. And then lastly, sort of along colors and just overall knowledge and language development, as I mentioned, we love this book, The First 100 Words. I was gifted 2 of these at my baby shower for my firstborn and never ever did anything with it. And one day my sister-in-law came, and she's got 3 kids that are just older than my oldest. And I remember she found this book in our bookshelf and was just like, oh my gosh, this is our favorite book. And she sat down with my son and her 3 kids and read it to them. And all it is, you guys, it's the most basic book of just different things. There's the things that go page, the colors page, you know, bedtime, just very simple little pictures. But what she did was she didn't just go through this book and say television, home, computer, right? She didn't just read what the picture was. She literally talked about this picture until you could no longer talk about this picture, and the kids loved it. And so rather than just saying ball, she would say, this is a blue ball. You can kick the ball. You can throw the ball. What color spots does the blue ball have? It has white spots. Do you know what I mean? This is a flower. The flower smells so good. The flower is yellow. Let's count the petals on the flower. Do you know what I mean? So just, again, reading to your children and just going over one object. There's so much you can learn from just one object. So this book is amazing. We read it multiple times a day. My son is kind of over it and too old for it. But my daughter right now, 19 months, loves it. You can see it's well loved and well worn. And then we keep the smaller version. It's exactly the same, but we keep it in our diaper bag and we take it everywhere. So those books are great. Now, as far as shapes go, shapes, another thing I was not terribly great at doing with my kids. I mean, maybe like, oh, a circle, square here and there, but I wasn't big on doing shapes with my kids at all. And so I ended up finding these DVDs. This is the Preschool Prep Library. And I found these on Groupon a few years ago and purchased them. And again, same thing, I just popped them in my car. And specifically the Shapes DVD. Now, for you parents who have not ever seen these DVDs, they are quite literally the most obnoxious DVDs on the planet. Let me tell you why. So for example, you'll have the circle, and this little character here is the circle. And he'll come on the screen and it will just say circle, 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 right? And it says it over and over and over. And he'll kind of flash around the screen, circle, circle, circle. Well, then he'll disappear and it will just be the circle, 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 circle. And then the circle will change into objects like a ball or a sunshine or a plate or a whatever you can imagine. But it's literally like 5 minutes of just circle, 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 and different objects. And it goes through circle, diamond, octagon, oval, rectangle, square, star, and triangle. So literally all of your basic shapes. But I remember once we were somewhere and my son was telling someone about an octagon, and they were blown away that he even knew not only what an octagon was, but how to say it. It's from this DVD here. Super obnoxious, and all of them are that way. The numbers, the letters, the colors, they're all that way, where it's just repetition, 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 but that's how kids learn. So it didn't take him long to learn his shapes with this DVD, but oh my gosh, I banned it from my car, and I would only let him watch it at home when I could step away because they're obnoxious, but they work. They're great. And then lastly, we have this Melissa and Doug Shapes Puzzle, and this is also great for talking about colors. My daughter is just kind of to the age right now where she is super interested in Melissa and Doug Chunky Puzzles. And so I pull this one out all the time. We talk about the color, we talk about where it goes, we talk about the square that it's in and what color that is. And so this is kind of another really fun hands-on activity that we are doing. Also, I forgot to mention, one of the things that we take with us everywhere, it's always in our diaper bag, not necessarily this one, but are these little felt books from the Target Dollar Spot. Every year they release 3 to 4 new ones, and I snag them all up. We have quite a big collection, but these ones are pretty good. So for example, this one is the Cars book, and it's all about transportation. But right there you go, there's a colors page. You can take your little car and match it, and it's the black car right there, and then they all have numbers on them as well, so you can sort of talk about the numbers and what the numbers represent. So there's colors and numbers, again with the visual discrimination and shapes. That's a very important concept for your kids to learn. Again, there's the Let's Count page in this one. So you've got your domino or your die, your dot representation of the number 1 through 6. And then as I mentioned, those cars have the numbers on them. And so you are just going to put the car, where does that go? The number 2 goes right here. So that's another really good one for colors, shapes, and numbers. And then the other, there's more activities in there, but all of their felt books sort of have those sorts of things in them, and they're super great for early learners. So that's question number 2. Question number 3, do you use a curriculum for your preschooler? I am now, as I've mentioned. Until they're about 2, I don't use a curriculum, and then when my daughter turns 2 in January, when we start our new school year, I will be using our Tot School curriculum with her, the Abeka preschool curriculum for 2s, and then as you well know, because you're following along, my son is using this preschool curriculum. Number 4, what are your favorite websites you use to teach pre-K? I don't actually use a website to teach, in the sense that my son is not on the internet using websites like ABC Mouse or any of those things. I use websites as reference for me, and the main ones I use are YouTube and Pinterest. If I need any kind of activity, those are the 2 places I go. Generally Pinterest, because it's used more as a search engine, and so I can easily just scroll through and find a very specific activity I'm looking for. But YouTube I use to educate myself on different curriculum, as well as different ways of teaching my children, or books to read or that sort of thing. Number 5, do you take your preschooler to any community activities on a weekly basis? As I mentioned again in my Q&A video, he does go to a preschool twice a week. It's more for socializing and life skills, sort of a Montessori approach to preschool, but he's not learning any academia, but he does do that twice a week. And then we have our Let's Play Music class once a week. And if you haven't seen my review on Let's Play Music, I will link that above here as well. How long do you teach your preschooler each day? We only school for, in total, an hour to an hour and a half each day. I'm not sure where my video went, but question number 7 is, what are their favorite educational shows to watch? Now, the very first show he ever watched is it's a channel on our Roku called Happy Kids. I believe they have a YouTube channel, but when he was about 6 months old and I had to get ready for work, I would put him in his little baby walker with some toys, or just on the floor and let him crawl around, and I would have it on in the background, and they just play nursery rhymes. So it's just children's songs and singing and nursery rhymes, and he loved it, and my daughter loves it. They're little animations. The singing is terrible, literally terrible, but they learn the nursery rhymes and they love the song, so they did that. Next was Daniel Tiger, and that teaches more social and emotional skills as opposed to academia, but we love Daniel Tiger, and my son still, and my husband and I too, I've kind of got, the little songs memorized. They're like earworms, and we find ourselves singing them in applicable situations now. I mean, we still do, and my daughter loves Daniel Tiger. So Daniel Tiger was one. Next was Blaze and the Monster Machines, and that's a television show on Nickelodeon. And at first my husband found it, and I was just like, Nickelodeon, this is not educational, I don't want him watching it. But I sat down and watched it one day, and it's monster trucks that teach physics, and they do it in such a fun way. So I was first of all blown away, because no other children's show is focusing on physics, right? There's some science, like Magic School Bus. There's, like Sesame Street with your letters and numbers, but physics, oh my gosh, how fun. And they do it through songs. So there's like a buoyancy episode, and they sing about buoyancy and what's buoyancy. We have buoyancy, our boat has the power to float, and so many amazing things. There's inertia, there's force, there's gravity, just all these really great physics topics, and he loves Blaze and the Monster Machines. And so that's still a family favorite, and even my daughter loves that one too. Next, we really like Umi Zoomies. Again, that's another Nickelodeon show, but they do math, and they're little math robots, I guess. They have a math robot, or they're math aliens. I don't even know what they are, but they teach math concepts. Patterning, sorting, numbers. So that's a really good one. We love Word World, and that's sort of, the animations are all made up of their words. So you'll see this little pig, this animated pig, but it's made up of the letters P-I-G to look like a pig. And so that one's really kind of fun. And then, just your ones. We love Sesame Street. We love Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Isn't super educational, but that's one of the ones that they like to watch anyway. So we really like those. And then also Peppa Pig. It's not super educational, but they're really into that one right now. So it's got a few things that, will count it. But those are the shows that they watch at home. We also really like Nature Cat, and I keep trying to get my kids to watch Wildcrats, and they're just not interested at all in Wildcrats, but they do like Nature Cat. Of all the shows they watch, it's their least favorite, but they'll watch it. How do you question number 8 says, how do you occupy your little one while homeschooling your older kids, if this applies to you? So my kids are only 26 months apart. It's not a huge age difference. It's enough. But my daughter really does mostly everything that my son is doing, and I have tried, I've tried to incorporate a lot of hands-on learning and activities in our homeschool preschool for that reason. So if we are doing a file folder game, I've got 2, so my son can do one and my daughter can do one. When we're doing singing time, she's sitting right there with us doing the finger plays, and she can't sing because she can't talk yet, but she's enjoying it and listening to the music. If we are reading a book, she's right in my lap with my son reading the book. And so I really, like I said, I try to incorporate as many hands-on activities as I can so that I'm not worried about what is she doing. Do I need to be watching her? Do I need to get up? Do I need to stop here? She's just doing it right along with us. We usually do preschool in our playroom. We have a little section set up, and so if she gets bored, she can just walk over to where the toys are and play with the toys on her own, and she usually prefers that. She usually prefers to school with us anyway, but that's always an option, and sometimes she does just go play. So it hasn't been an issue for us yet, but I don't know in later years and with other children, do you know what I mean? Like when my son is maybe in 2nd grade, if we've got a toddler baby, I don't know, because we're not there yet. But for now, it hasn't been an issue for us. And the last question, number 9, what is your favorite educational toy to use for teaching? You guys, I have no idea. We have so many educational toys. I'm gonna have to film a video. If I have already, I will link it up here, of our preschool closet and just sort of show all of the hands-on things that we use. My favorite toy is probably all of our safari tubes, because I'm a science geek and I just think they are so cool, all of the safari tubes. As far as my son, right now, my son's favorite educational toy are probably our Alphabots from Lakeshore Learning, because he's obsessed with Transformers right now, and so they're like little Transformers, and he loves those. And my daughter just likes all the toys. So I guess that answers that question. Anyway, that's all I have for this video. As usual, if you are interested in following us along on our homeschool journey, I have to say homeschool now because we're not really doing tot school or preschool, it's a hybrid. But if you're interested in following along our homeschool journey, be sure to click that subscribe button, and I will see you in my next video.